your chest right now. The kind that shows up the moment a room that used to feel like home suddenly feels too small. Chosen one, that weight is not stress, and it is not ingratitude. It is your spirit standing in a place your calling has already outgrown. Somewhere in your life right now there is also a person, a memory, or an expectation quietly holding you there, convincing you that staying is safer than admitting the season is over. And underneath that, something even quieter. It is possible to be completely spiritually ready to move and still not move for months, because your body and your mind run on a loop that rewards the familiar, even when the familiar has already released you. Today, you are going to understand 3 things. You are going to understand why the discomfort you feel is not failure but evidence that you have outgrown the room. You are going to feel, in your own body, the exact shape of the pull that has been keeping you circling the same place without moving. And you are going to walk away knowing the one small shift that lets you start moving toward what God already built, starting today, not someday. Because here is what almost no one tells you before this point. The tightness in your chest, the restlessness at 2 in the morning, the sense that nothing is technically wrong but nothing feels right either, that is not a warning sign. That is a signal. Your capacity has already expanded past the walls around you. There is a name for that gap, and once you hear it, you will recognize it in every stalled season of your life. I am only going to give you the edge of it right now, because the full weight of it, and the place already finished waiting on the other side of it, comes later in this message. If any part of what I just said already feels like your life, type moving right now before we go any further. Not because I need the comment, because naming a thing out loud is the first small act of leaving a place that has already let you go. I want you to picture the last time you walked into the space you live in most, your office, your kitchen, your car, your church pew, and felt your shoulders drop before you even knew why. Not relief. Something closer to bracing. Your body already knows what your mind has been arguing against for months. You have called it a lot of things: burnout, a rough patch, ingratitude, because so many people would trade places with you in a heartbeat. None of those words were ever accurate, and by the end of this message, you will know exactly why. Here is the truth those words were covering. You are not falling behind. You are not failing at the life you built with your own 2 hands. What feels like you losing your footing is actually you outgrowing the floor you have been standing on for years. That is a strange thing to hear, because outgrowing something is supposed to feel like victory, not grief. But growth that happens faster than your environment can hold always feels like loss before it feels like anything else. The ceiling gets lower before the door gets found. I am going to walk with you through why the place you are in right now, whatever that place looks like for you, can no longer hold what you are becoming. I am going to name the exact mechanism keeping you circling instead of moving, and I am going to show you, piece by piece, what has already been finished on the other side of this season. This is not going to be one of those messages that hands you a feeling and leaves you there. You are going to walk away with language for what you are experiencing, and with something practical to do with it before this message ends. So, before we go further, I want you to mark this moment, to comment moving below right now, not as a ritual, as a decision, because the people who type it usually notice something shift in the room around them before this message is even finished. There is a place you have been trying to make work for a long time now. Maybe it is the job that once felt like an answer to prayer and now feels like a waiting room. Maybe it is a friendship, a marriage, a city, or simply the version of your own mind you have been living inside since you were young. Whatever it is for you, picture it clearly right now, because the rest of this message is going to speak directly into it. You have done everything you know how to do to make that place fit again. You prayed harder there. You tried new routines there. You forgave people there more than once and told yourself that forgiveness would fix the fit. It helped some things. It did not fix the fit, because the problem was never really the people or the schedule or the walls. The problem was that you had already changed size, and no amount of effort inside an old room makes an old room bigger. If you are still listening, something in you already recognized what I just described before I finished the sentence. That is not casual. Most people would have scrolled past a message like this one within the first minute. You stayed. That tells me your spirit is already further along than your circumstances are letting on. Let me give you a small taste of what is coming, because you deserve proof before you commit to hearing the rest. Here is the symptom. Almost every chosen one in this exact season describes the same way. You can sit through hours of something that does not matter. A show, a scroll, a conversation that goes nowhere, without any resistance at all. But the moment you sit down to do the one thing that actually matters, the call you need to make, the decision you keep delaying, the door you know you are supposed to walk through, a heaviness drops onto you out of nowhere. You have called that laziness. You have called it a lack of discipline, and you have quietly punished yourself for it for longer than you want to admit. That explanation was never true. There is a real mechanism behind that heaviness, something that lives in your body as much as your spirit, and it is not a character flaw. I am going to name it fully in a few minutes, piece by piece, so you can finally see it instead of just feeling it. For now, I only want you to notice something. The heaviness only shows up around the thing that matters most. That is not random. A false alarm does not know how to aim that precisely. Something in you is actually protecting a pattern, and once you see what it is protecting, the heaviness starts to lose its grip almost immediately. This is the part where I ask you to do something small but not symbolic. If you recognize that heaviness just now, comment, "I know this feeling" below. Not for me, because when you name a pattern in front of witnesses, it becomes much harder to keep living inside it quietly. Something about speaking it changes your relationship to it. Here is where we are headed together. In a few minutes, I am going to walk you through the exact reason your capacity has outgrown the room you are standing in, and give that reason a name you will never forget once you hear it. After that, I am going to show you the quieter mechanism, the one hiding underneath the obvious explanations that has kept you circling instead of walking through the door that already opened. And before this message ends, I am going to describe in detail the place already finished and waiting for the person you are becoming. None of this is speculation. It is a pattern I have watched play out in Chosen One after Chosen One, and it is playing out in you right now whether you have had language for it or not. Here is the symptom, named exactly. You walk into rooms that used to feel completely fine, a meeting, a family dinner, a Sunday service you have attended for years, and somewhere in the middle of it, a low irritation rises in you that has nothing to do with anything being said. You snap faster than you used to, not at the people, at the smallness of the conversation itself. You catch yourself praying the same prayer you prayed 5 years ago, and feeling, for the first time, that the prayer itself has gotten too small for what is actually happening inside you. You have explained that away as ingratitude. You have called it an attitude problem, a spiritual dry season, maybe even pride, since who are you to feel like a room is beneath you? None of those explanations were true, and carrying them has cost you more peace than the actual problem ever did. Here is what is really happening. There is an old Hebrew word, makom, that simply means place. It is also, quietly, one of the names used for God himself, because a place was never just geography to the people who first used that word. A place was a container built to hold a certain measure of life. Your body knows this instinctively. even if your mind ever had the vocabulary. You have grown. Your capacity for faith, for responsibility, for love, for vision, has expanded past what the room you are standing in was built to hold. That gap between your capacity and your container has a name now. Call it the container ceiling. It is the exact point where a space that once fit you starts to press against everything you have become, and it presses hardest in the moments that matter most, because that is where the mismatch is loudest. Think about a man who once left the only country he had ever known because staying had quietly stopped being possible for who he was becoming. His household did not understand it. His comfort argued against it. But the assignment on his life had already outgrown the borders of his father's house long before his feet ever moved. He did not leave because the old place turned evil. He left because it turned small. This changes how you have to read the last several years of your life. You were not failing at contentment. You were not spiritually immature for feeling restless in a place other people seemed perfectly happy in. You are not slow. You are simply full. What looked like restlessness was actually your capacity arriving before your address did. This is not X. This is Y, said as plainly as I can say it. This was never you being ungrateful for what you had. This was you outgrowing what you had, which is a completely different thing, and one of them is a character flaw, and the other one is a sign of life. So here is what you do with this today, and it is smaller than you expect. Stop auditing yourself for what is wrong with your attitude toward your current place. Start asking a different question instead. What has actually gotten bigger in me? Your job is not to shrink yourself back down until the room fits again. That was never the assignment, and forcing it only delays what is already in motion. The moment you stop shrinking is the moment the next room becomes findable, because you cannot walk through a door sized for who you are becoming while you are still folding yourself down to fit who you used to be. If you have been quietly grieving a place you have not even left yet, that grief makes complete sense now. You were not mourning a mistake. You were mourning a container that was faithful for a season and simply was never built to hold what came after it. Before we go further into the mechanism keeping you in place, I want to pause here and ask you to do one more thing. If the container ceiling I just described explains something you have been feeling for months without a name, comment "I am full" below. Not empty, not lost, full. There is a difference, and your body has known the difference this whole time, even when your language did not. Now, I want to pause and hold something in front of you before we continue, because it belongs in this conversation, and I do not want you to miss it. Over the past few years, something has been discovered in research laboratories that most people who care about the things we have been discussing have never been told about, not because it contradicts what is sacred, because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. A small group of neuroscientists, led by a doctor in New York City who has spent years studying this, found something about the way the human brain is designed that explains something almost every spiritually sensitive person has felt but never been able to name. Something so fundamental it traces back to a Nobel Prize-winning discovery, yet so simple in its practical form that it sounds almost too easy at first. I am going to tell you exactly what they found later in this message, in full detail, because it connects directly to the mechanism I am about to name for you. But right now, hold this question in the back of your mind while we keep going. What if the reason moving still feels so hard, even after you have made peace with the fact that you have outgrown this place, is not a lack of faith at all? What if something was quietly disconnected inside you, something that can be reconnected? Keep that question open. We are coming back to it. For now, there is a second layer to this ceiling, and it is quieter than the first one, and it lives somewhere your prayers have not fully reached yet. Before I show you that second layer, I want you to notice something about yourself, because it matters more than you think. There are a handful of signs that tend to show up together in someone who has genuinely outgrown their current place, instead of simply being tired or bored, and I want you to check yourself against them honestly. The first sign is that your discomfort is not generalized. It is specific. You are not unhappy with everything. You are unhappy with the ceiling of one particular room, while other parts of your life still feel completely fine. The second sign is that rest does not fix it. You can take a vacation, sleep for 10 hours, and the tightness is still there the moment you walk back into that same space. Fatigue lifts with rest. Outgrowing does not. The third sign is that you keep having glimpses, small and sudden, of a version of your life that does not fit inside your current address. A flash of clarity about work you were never trained for. A pull toward people or places you have never even visited. The fourth sign is that you feel oddly protective of people still comfortable in the place you are leaving, even while you can no longer pretend to be comfortable there yourself. And the fifth sign, the one almost nobody names out loud, is a strange calm underneath the discomfort. Not peace about the situation, peace about the direction. If most of those describe you right now, you are not confused. You are simply early in a transition that has already started, whether you have taken a single visible step yet or not. But there is something in this season that almost no one warns you about, and it may already be operating in your life right now without a name attached to it. Think about how many times you have actually started the process of leaving. You updated the resume and never sent it. You looked at listings in a different city late at night and closed the tab before morning. You drafted the hard conversation in your head 100 times and somehow never had it out loud. Each time, you stopped at almost exactly the same point, right before the risk became real. You have called that fear. You have called it not being ready yet, waiting for more confirmation, more savings, more certainty. Here is the honest answer. None of that was really the reason, and I want to be gentle but direct with you about what actually was. Your body runs on a very old survival pattern. It does not measure danger by whether something is good or bad for you long term. It measures danger by whether something is familiar or unfamiliar. A painful, predictable place will consistently feel safer to your nervous system than an unfamiliar, even wonderful, unknown one. That is not a character flaw. That is not weak faith. That is a wiring pattern, built to keep ancient humans alive in genuinely dangerous environments, now firing in a season where the actual danger is staying too long. There is a name for this pattern. Call it the comfort loop. It is the quiet loop that rewards you with a small hit of relief every single time you choose the familiar ache over the unfamiliar ease, and punishes you with anxiety every time you get close to the actual door. It is not judging your character. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is, what it was built to do no longer matches where you actually are. This is not a lack of readiness. This is a loop, and loops can be interrupted the moment you can see them clearly enough to name them while they are firing. The next time you feel that pull backward right as you get close to the real step, do not argue with it. Just say it plainly to yourself. This is the comfort loop, not the truth. That single sentence, said honestly in the moment, is often enough to loosen its grip long enough for you to take the step anyway. If this describes a pattern you have lived for years without a name for it, comment "the loop" right now, because the moment you can name a loop, you stop being ruled by it and start being able to walk straight through it. 15 minutes into a message like this, most people would have already looked away. You have not. That is worth noticing about yourself, because it tells you something the container ceiling and the comfort loop both already told you in different language. Whatever is next for you requires a level of attention most people are not currently able to give. You just proved, again, that you are. There is a reason this loop feels so convincing from the inside. It never announces itself as fear. It dresses itself up as wisdom, as patience, as waiting for peace before you move. Real discernment and the comfort loop can feel almost identical in the moment, and the only real difference between them is what they are protecting. Discernment protects your future. The comfort loop protects your routine. One asks whether this is the right door. The other asks whether this door is familiar. Learning to tell them apart is not complicated once you know the question to ask yourself in the moment the resistance shows up. Ask this: am I hesitating because something feels genuinely wrong, or because it feels genuinely new? Those are two completely different signals, wearing the exact same physical sensation. Now, I want to name the third thing, and this one is quieter than the first two, because it does not live in your capacity or in your nervous system. It lives in a relationship. Picture the exact conversation you keep avoiding. The one where you tell a specific person that you are moving on, from the job, the church, the friendship, the city, whatever it is for you. Picture their face in your mind right now. Notice how quickly your chest tightens just from imagining it. That reaction is not random, and it is worth naming honestly instead of pushing past quickly. You have called that loyalty. You have called it not wanting to hurt someone who has been good to you, and both of those things might even be true. But underneath the loyalty there is something else operating, something that has nothing to do with love and everything to do with guilt, and the two feel identical in the body, even though they come from completely different places. There is a name for what is actually holding you there. Call it the silent anchor. It is not a person exactly, though it usually wears a person face. It is the unspoken price tag you have attached to peace, the quiet agreement you made somewhere along the way that says leaving is only acceptable if it costs you nothing and disappoints no one. That agreement was never realistic, and carrying it has kept you circling a door you already know you need to walk through. Here is the recontextualizing piece, and I want you to really receive this one. This is not betrayal. This is not abandonment. This is the completion of a season that already gave you what it had to give, and seasons are allowed to end without anyone in them having done anything wrong. The love was real. The place still needs to change. Return agency looks like this. Name the anchor specifically, out loud or on paper, today. Not the vague feeling of guilt, the actual person, memory, or expectation attached to it. An anchor loses most of its weight the moment it stops being silent. Now let me show you something, because you have earned a picture of what is actually on the other side of this. Imagine a version of you a year from now, standing in a room you can not fully picture yet, but you can feel the air in it. It is quieter than where you are right now, not because life got smaller, but because the noise of forcing yourself into a room that no longer fit you is finally gone. Your shoulders sit lower in that room. Decisions that used to take you weeks now take you an afternoon, because you are no longer spending half your energy managing the gap between who you are and where you are standing. That version of you is not a fantasy. That version of you is who God has already been building toward this whole time, and the room already exists for that person, finished, waiting, sized correctly. If you can feel even the edge of that picture right now, comment, "I see the room below." Something in you already knows this is not wishful thinking. There is an old story about a man who spent years in a pit, and then in a foreign household, and then in a prison cell, before he ever set foot in the palace. His dreams had shown him, as a boy, every single one of those rooms was temporary. None of them were the anchor. He grieved each transition honestly, and he still walked forward out of every single one, because he understood something you are being asked to understand right now. A season ending is not the same thing as a promise failing. Sometimes the room changes 3 or 4 times on the way to the one that finally fits. His brothers, the very people whose approval he might have waited on forever, were not the ones who got to decide when his season changed. God had already decided that before any of them had an opinion about it. Yours is no different. The silent anchor only has the authority you have quietly handed it, and you are allowed to take that authority back today without waiting for anyone to agree with your timeline. We are only about halfway through what I actually came to give you today, and I want to be honest about that, because the heaviest piece of this message is still ahead of you, not behind you. Everything up to this point has been naming what is happening. What comes next is going to show you exactly how to move through it. If you have been listening for this long, that is not casual. Most people scrolled past a message like this one within the first 2 minutes. You are still here, more than 20 minutes in, and that tells me something about you that your current circumstances have not been telling you lately. There is a fourth thing happening underneath all of this, and it might be the most disorienting one of the 4 because it does not feel like restlessness or guilt. It feels like confusion about who you actually are. Here is the symptom. Things that used to excite you now feel flat. A promotion, a compliment, an opportunity that would have thrilled you 2 years ago barely registers now. At the same time, things that never used to bother you have started to. You feel like 2 different people depending on the day, sometimes within the same hour. And it is honestly a little frightening. You have called that instability. You have wondered if you are backsliding or losing yourself or simply becoming someone colder than you used to be. None of those are accurate, and I want to correct that story right now, plainly. Identity does not change like a light switch flipping from one state to another. It changes like a bridge under construction where both ends of the bridge exist at the same time for a while before the new side is fully load-bearing. You are not confused. You are under construction, and construction always looks messier from the inside than it does once the bridge is finished. This is not instability. This is not you falling apart. This is 2 versions of you occupying the same body for a season, the one who fit the old room and the one being built for the new one, and the discomfort of holding both is temporary by design, not permanent by failure. Here is the return agency piece, and it is simpler than it sounds. Stop waiting to fully arrive as the new version of yourself before you act like them. Act from the bridge. Make the decision the finished version of you would make, even while the construction is still visibly incomplete. That is not pretending. That is how bridges actually get finished. One weight-bearing step at a time, taken before the entire structure feels solid. This is not you losing your foundation. This is you laying a new one while still standing on the old one. And there is no version of that process that does not feel unsteady for a while. Anyone who tells you transformation should feel smooth the whole way through has never actually built anything that lasted. I want to give you a small tool for the days when the 2 versions of you feel most at war with each other, because those days will come before this season is finished. When you catch yourself flooded with a reaction that feels too big, too flat, or too foreign for the moment you are in, pause and ask one honest question. Is this the voice of who I was, or the voice of who I am becoming? You will usually know the answer within a few seconds, because one of those voices sounds like fear wearing familiar clothing, and the other one sounds like clarity you have not fully trusted yet. Let that question become a habit over the next few weeks. It will not make the bridge finish building any faster, but it will make the walk across it far less disorienting, because you will finally know which version of you is actually speaking in any given moment. If you have felt like 2 different people lately, and it has scared you more than you have admitted to anyone, comment "under construction" below right now. There is nothing wrong with you. There is something being built in you, and it is almost load-bearing. There is one more thing standing between you and the door, and I saved it for last on purpose, because it is usually the heaviest one to carry, and the one people are least willing to say out loud. Some of you reading this have actually moved before, not just dreamed about it, actually left the job, the relationship, the city, and it did not work out the way you believed God had shown you it would. You are not new to this. You are wounded by a previous attempt, and that changes everything about how this current pull feels. Here is the fear underneath the fear. What if I am wrong again? What if I step out this time, on this word, in this direction, and it collapses the same way the last one did? That fear is not weakness. It is the completely reasonable response of someone who paid a real price the last time they trusted a door. But I need to name something about how that fear operates, because it has quietly cost you more than the original disappointment ever did. Call it the false start tax. It is the pattern where a single failed transition gets used as permanent evidence against every future transition, as if one door being the wrong door proves all doors are unreliable, as if one season ending badly proves every season will. That is not how doors work, and it is not how God has ever worked across your life. The season that did not work out had its own specific conditions, its own specific timing, its own specific lessons, none of which automatically transfer onto this one. This is not the same door. This is not you being asked to trust blindly again in the exact same way that cost you before. This is not failure repeating. This is a different season with a different door, and treating them as the same thing has been quietly taxing every good opportunity that has come near you since. The lesson from last time is allowed to stay. The verdict from last time does not get to stay attached to everything that comes after it. Here is what return agency looks like for this one specifically. Take out one honest sentence about what actually happened last time, separate from the shame around it. Name the real lesson in it. Then let that lesson travel with you into this next step without dragging the entire verdict of failure along with it. If you have been carrying a previous disappointment like a life sentence against ever trying again, comment "different door" below right now. This is not the same story. You are allowed to let it be different. We have now named all four things standing between you and the place already built for you. The ceiling you outgrew, the loop keeping you circling, the anchor holding you quietly in place, and the fear left over from a door that did not hold last time. Every one of them has a name now, and every one of them has already lost most of its power simply by being spoken out loud in this room with you. Now, I want to close a loop that has been open since earlier in this message, because I told you there was something discovered in research laboratories that I would come back to, and I want to tell you why I waited until now to bring it forward. Because what they found is not information. What they found is a solution, and a solution only becomes useful once you understand the full shape of the problem it solves. You did not understand that shape 20 minutes ago. You understand it completely now. The ceiling, the loop, the anchor, the false start tax, all four of them live in the same place, and that place is exactly where what I am about to describe was built to reach. But here is what most messages like this one never say. What you have learned until now is true, every piece of it, and without what comes next, it will only work at a fraction of what it was meant to. I want to slow all the way down here and speak plainly, without metaphor, so nothing about what I am giving you gets lost. Here is the why. You have spent years explaining your restlessness with words that were never accurate. Laziness, ingratitude, instability, bad luck. Every one of those explanations kept you managing symptoms instead of addressing what was actually happening, which is that your capacity outgrew your container. Your nervous system built a loop to protect the familiar, a silent anchor kept a foot in the old season, and a past disappointment taxed every attempt since. 4 real mechanisms, not 4 character flaws. Here is the what. All 4 of those mechanisms live in the same place, the connection between your mind and your body, the part of you that either receives what your spirit already knows or blocks it before it can land as action. Naming them was step 1. What comes next addresses the actual physical piece of this puzzle, the part prayer alone was never designed to fix by itself, because it was never a spiritual deficiency to begin with. Here is the who this is for. This is for the chosen one who has done the inner work, who has prayed, who has named every anchor honestly in this message, and still feels the drag of the old room in their body even after their mind agreed to move. If that describes you, stay with me for a few more minutes. That clarity you just received is real, but clarity alone has never been the thing that moves a body across a threshold. The mechanism is clear now. The only question left is what you do with a receiver finally capable of carrying it. I want to add one more piece to the why, because it matters. None of the 4 mechanisms I named today are punishments. They are not signs that you are less spiritual than someone who seems to move through transitions easily. They are simply what happens in every human being when growth outpaces the structures built to hold it, and in every human being who carries an assignment large enough to require real, physical readiness alongside spiritual readiness. You were never meant to white-knuckle your way across this threshold using willpower alone. Willpower was never the missing ingredient. A body and mind capable of fully receiving what your spirit has already agreed to was the missing ingredient, and that is a completely different problem than the ones you have been trying to solve with more discipline, more prayer, more self-criticism. I have watched this exact pattern play out over and over in people carrying assignments larger than the rooms they were standing in, and I want to be honest with you about something. I do not have this fully figured out either, not in the sense of having arrived somewhere final. What I have is a pattern I have watched closely, and a genuine belief that naming it honestly serves you more than pretending certainty I do not have. That is who you have been, circling a door your spirit already opened. That is not who you are required to stay. The mechanism is clear now. The door is visible now. What remains is how you actually walk through it, and that is exactly where we are going next. In 1981, something was proven in a laboratory that most people sitting in churches and spiritual communities were never told about. Not because anyone hid it, but because it came from a direction most of us were never taught to look. A neurologist named Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for showing that the human brain has 2 hemispheres designed to work as one synchronized whole, not as 2 separate systems taking turns. When those 2 hemispheres run in true synchronization, something researchers now call whole brain activation, people describe clarity, decisiveness, and a kind of creative flow that used to be the default state of childhood. Here is the piece that connects directly to everything we have named today. 98% of children test at what researchers call a creative genius level. By adulthood, fewer than 1 in 1,000 still operate that way. That is not because you got lazier or less spiritual as you got older. It is because modern life, the schedules, the screens, the stress, gradually pulls those 2 hemispheres out of sync, and what feels like fog, indecision, or a body that will not cooperate with a spirit that is ready is very often exactly that, a receiver running under capacity. A woman from California described what that felt like before she found what I am about to describe. She had tried everything: prayer, journaling, meditation, every practice her community offered, and kept arriving at the same experience. She believed the words. She could not feel the reality behind them, not in her body, not in the lived texture of her days. After 10 days, she said something cleared. A channel that had been blocked was suddenly open, not because she tried harder, because the receiver itself had been repaired. A man from Texas described something similar. Someone who had spent years holding things together for everyone around him, while his own interior life grew thin and distant. He said, prayer had started to feel like talking into a wall. The frequency was right, but the receiver was off. 2 weeks later, he described his mind as finally running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog had been so constant he had stopped registering it as fog. Then it was simply gone. That is because of what a team of neuroscientists spent years quietly building. They took an approach used in specialized clinical settings for whole brain restoration, spent years refining and compressing it, and turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence, worn through headphones with your eyes closed. Nothing to memorize, nothing to perform. They call it the Genius Switch. It is not a meditation app, and it is not a soundtrack designed to put you in a particular mood. It is a targeted auditory sequence engineered from Dr. Sperry Nobel Prize-winning research, built specifically to reconnect both hemispheres and restore the synchronized state that was your default as a child, long before any container sealing, comfort loop, or silent anchor ever had the chance to form. If you have tried other audio-based approaches before and found them underwhelming, this is worth hearing directly. Most of those approaches target only a narrow slice of the picture, a single isolated signal, incomplete on its own. What this team built targets hemisphere synchronization at the whole brain level, using a multi-layer clinical protocol refined over years, not a single simple signal. That is a different mechanism entirely, and it produces a different category of result. The Genius Switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who has done the work, who has prayed, who has named the ceiling, the loop, the anchor, and the false start tax honestly instead of hiding from them, and who is finally ready to stop treating a foggy, disconnected mind as a permanent condition instead of something with a specific, addressable cause. Most people who hear this will let the moment pass. They have quietly accepted a reduced version of their own mind as simply how life works now. You are still here, more than 30 minutes into a message most people would have abandoned long ago. That is not coincidence. That is exactly the kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. Colleagues who reviewed this work suggested it would be worth it, even at $500. In-person clinical restoration of this kind runs $300 an hour, and a comparable at-home device can run $7,000. This was not released anywhere close to that. Not 500, not 200, not even 100. It was released at $49, and on this page specifically, there is an additional $10 off, $39 one time for lifetime access. That includes 4 free editions, a guided visualization from a top-rated creator, walking your mind through money, love, health, and happiness fully restored. A smart grocery guide naming the common foods quietly linked to brain fog, with practical swaps that also save real money each month. A classic manifestation text, over 100 years old, considered the root of most modern manifestation teaching, and a printable 5 habits guide for the mind you are building toward. All of it is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do for you what it has already done for over 18,000 people, every dollar returns to you, no conditions attached. I will be honest about one more thing. The team behind this has communicated that $39 will not hold indefinitely. That is not pressure designed to rush you. That is simply the reality of limited access to something built with this much clinical care behind it. One thing worth naming plainly: if you search for similar names elsewhere, you will find tracks with no real technology behind them at all, carrying a similar label, because nothing stops anyone from using one. The mechanism is what actually makes the difference, and the mechanism only exists in what this specific team built. The link in the description and in the pinned comment below points to the only verified place to find it. If your spirit resonates with everything you have heard today, that link is there for you, and you can read every detail on the page before deciding anything at all. The tool does not replace God, and it does not replace obedience. It does not surrender for you, and it does not close a single door for you. What God is doing in you was never conditional on any tool, but a receiver that has been restored gives what God is already doing more of what it was designed to land inside. Obedience still belongs entirely to the heart God is forming in you. A tool can only support the clarity that obedience already requires. The deeper current of this message, the one about the place already built for you, is exactly where we are returning now. And for the chosen one who felt something stir earlier, when the mind and the fog were named so specifically, that door is still open in the description below. It is a small step, but small steps taken from a clear mind have changed entire seasons before. Now let me take you all the way into the place itself, because you have earned the full picture, not just the edges of it. See the room clearly. It is not extravagant. It is not loud. It is simply sized correctly, for the first time in longer than you can remember. The ceiling in this room sits exactly where your capacity actually reaches, with room still left above your head to keep growing into. There is no ache in your chest when you walk in, because nothing in this room requires you to shrink to fit it. The people in this new place know the version of you that is under construction right now, not the version that used to fit the old room. They do not flinch at your growth. They do not need you smaller to feel comfortable around you. That, alone, after this long, is going to feel like a kind of rest you have not had in years. You will still remember the old place. You will still be grateful for what it gave you, the lessons, the relationships that were real while they lasted, the version of you it helped build. Gratitude and outgrowing were never opposites. You can hold both at once, clearly, without guilt, the exact way you have been learning to do throughout this entire message. You are close now. Everything I am about to declare over you in a moment, I want you to receive fully, because it is not a wish. It is a description of something already finished, waiting only for you to walk into it, with the receiver you now have language for and permission to use. 50 minutes into this message, most people are long gone. You have stayed for every single piece of it, the ceiling, the loop, the anchor, the false start tax, and the place already built. That is not endurance for its own sake. That is a chosen one, recognizing their own story being told back to them, piece by piece. I want to walk through a few more specific corners of this new place before we close, because vague comfort was never the point of this message. Precision was. Picture the work you do in that room. It moves differently than it does right now. Decisions that currently take you weeks of circling take you an afternoon, not because the stakes got smaller, but because the fog that used to sit between the decision and your ability to trust it is simply gone. Ideas arrive complete instead of half-formed. You stop needing to talk yourself into things you already knew were right. Picture the people closest to you in that room, the relationships that were meant to travel with you into this next season without you having to convince anyone or drag anyone along by force, and the ones that were only ever built for the old season release cleanly, without the ongoing ache of trying to keep something alive that already finished its purpose. And picture the quietest part of that room, the part almost nobody talks about. The version of you standing there is not performing peace for anyone watching. The peace is simply present, underneath everything, the way it was when you were young enough that a whole brain, fully synchronized, was still your normal condition, rather than something you had to work to reclaim. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something specific over your life, something I want you fully present for, not half listening while you plan your next task. So let this be your marker. In just a few minutes, we are going to stand in that declaration together, and I want you to remember exactly what got named along the way to get there. The ceiling you outgrew, not failed. The loop you can now interrupt by naming it. The anchor you are allowed to release without guilt. The false start that was never a life sentence. And the receiver, finally capable of carrying everything your spirit already knew. Before we close, I want to walk you through something practical, a few minutes long, that will help all of this settle from an idea into something you can actually feel in your body. Find a place to be still for a moment, even if it is just where you already are. Let your hands rest open, palms up, in your lap. Close your eyes if that is available to you right now. Picture the room you have been standing in for this whole season exactly as it is, walls close, ceiling low, familiar in every uncomfortable way. Do not judge it, just see it clearly, one more time, as the container that carried you as far as it could carry you. Now, picture a door in that room you have never noticed before, standing slightly open, light coming through the gap. That door was not hidden from you out of cruelty. It was hidden until the exact moment your capacity was ready to actually walk through it without turning back out of fear. Here is the reframe I want you to speak internally, in your own words, if these do not fit exactly. This room was never a punishment. It was never proof that I am too much or not enough. It was the exact size I needed until today. And today, my capacity is walking toward a door already built for who I am becoming. Now, place one hand gently over your chest, right where that tightness has been living this whole message. Feel your own heartbeat under your palm. That heartbeat has been steady through every version of you this room has held. The one who arrived here scared, the one who grew past what fit, and the one standing here right now, hand over heart, finally naming the door instead of only feeling the walls. Let your hand stay there a few more seconds. Whatever you just felt shift, even slightly, is not imagined. Your body just registered physically a permission your spirit has been offering you for a long time. Open your eyes when you are ready. You do not have to walk through the door today in the literal sense, the resignation letter, the hard conversation, the flight booked, but you can walk through it internally right now, which is where every real doorway actually gets crossed first. There is an old story about a man who left everything familiar because staying had quietly stopped being possible for who he was becoming, and he did not have a map for where he was going, only a voice he trusted enough to follow one step at a time. That is the entire roadmap, and it is the only one you actually need today. One step at a time, in the direction of the door, trusting the one who already finished building what is on the other side of it. You have been listening for close to an hour now. That is not a casual amount of time to give to anything, let alone a message like this one. Whatever brought you here today, an ache you could not name, a restlessness you were tired of explaining away, a quiet suspicion that something bigger was waiting on the other side of this season, it was not random. I want to remind you, gently, of everything we named together before we step into the closing. You are not stuck. You have outgrown the room. The ceiling was never a flaw. The loop was never weak faith. The anchor was never disloyalty. The false start was never a life sentence. Every single one of those things has already lost its grip simply by being spoken honestly, out loud, in a room with you. In a moment I am going to speak a declaration over your life, and I want you fully present for it, not composing your next thought while I say it. This is the part of the message where something settles permanently, if you let it. Set down whatever you are holding, physically if you can, and let your hands stay open, through what comes next. Chosen one, thank you for staying present through every part of this, not politely, fully. That kind of attention is rare, and it is not wasted on a message like this one. I want you to take one slow breath right now, and as you let it out, notice everything that has already loosened in you over the last hour, even the parts you cannot fully explain yet. Now I want you to release something with me, out loud if you can, silently if you cannot. Release the belief that restlessness meant failure. Release the belief that the loop pulling you backward was weakness. Release the guilt attached to a person, a place, or a season that has already given you everything it had to give. Release the verdict, a past disappointment placed over every future door. Release the idea that you had to arrive fully transformed before you were allowed to move. Release the fear that leaving means disrespecting where you came from. Release the exhaustion of shrinking yourself to fit a room built for who you used to be. Let all of it fall the way weight falls when a hand finally opens. Here is what remains, and I want you to receive every word of it as true right now, not someday. You are not stuck. You are not behind. You are not too much, and you are not failing at contentment. You are a chosen one who has outgrown a container, and the room already exists on the other side of this season, built specifically for the size you have become. I am the one who outgrew the room, not the one who failed inside it. I am the one whose loop can be named and interrupted, not the one ruled by it forever. I am the one allowed to release an anchor without guilt, because love does not require staying somewhere that has already finished its purpose. I am the one whose past disappointment taught a lesson without sentencing every future door, and I am the one walking, one step at a time, toward a place God finished building before I ever asked him to. If anything in that declaration landed true in you just now, comment, "I am ready" below, right where you are. Let that be the last thing you leave in this space before you go build the next one. Before you close this message, I want to ask you for something small, gently, for someone other than yourself. Think of one person you know who is standing in their own container ceiling right now, still explaining it away as a bad season instead of what it actually is, still blaming their own character for something that was never a character flaw. They may not have language for it yet. You do now. Send this to them today, not eventually. Sometimes the whole reason a message like this reaches someone is because a person who already understood it chose to pass it forward instead of keeping it to themselves. And if you are new to this space, consider staying close. Thousands of chosen ones gather here for exactly this kind of message, week after week, naming ceilings and doors and rooms that are finally the right size. If something in this message genuinely moved something in you, gently press, like on your way out, not for me, but so this reaches someone else, standing exactly where you were an hour ago. And if messages like this one matter to you, staying close to this space means you will be here for the next door that needs naming, whenever it comes. The place you are in could not hold your next level. That was never an insult to the place. It was simply the truth about your size. God did not leave you circling. He finished building the next one, long before you finished grieving the last one. It is done, and so it is.